My name is Tom Silver. I'm a freshman at Harvard. I'm writing for the Harvard Political Review. I wrote for the winter issue about the state of cybersecurity in the United States, and I basically argued that we are extremely vulnerable and we need to be very worried as cyber warfare becomes more and more prevalent throughout the world and in the United States. One example of that is after I wrote my article, just a few weeks after, when Israel started airstrikes on Gaza, there were 44 million cyber attacks on Israeli government websites within 3 days. And that's just one very small example of a trend that I observed, which is, and many people have observed, which is cyber warfare is becoming more and more prevalent, and that will basically be the future of warfare, or a major component of the future of warfare. There are three major reasons why the United States specifically needs to be worried about cybersecurity. The first is just the nature of cybersecurity and cyber warfare. The United States, being a major superpower, benefits when wars are traditional and military budgets are strongly correlated with the success that the military has. So the countries that are poised to benefit from cyber warfare are countries like Iran, who are capable of launching cyber attacks but don't have to take credit for them, but they can do some serious damage without causing a full-blown war in which they would likely not fare so well. The second reason that the United States needs to be specifically worried about cyber warfare is we don't have any comprehensive cybersecurity legislation. Many of the people that I talked to about this article were concerned that as technology marches forward, this cybersecurity remains very stagnant and behind the times. So officials in Washington really need to adapt to the new technology that cyber terrorists are acquiring and update our cybersecurity law accordingly. The one reason why legislators are reluctant to update our cybersecurity legislation is the internet has become pretty taboo following the uproar after SOPA a few months ago. I think it was back in January. After SOPA, both parties pledged their allegiance to net neutrality, and since then, nobody has touched the internet in Congress with a 10-foot pole because they know that the public backlash would be very strong. But there is a difference between cybersecurity legislation and net neutrality, and legislators need to realize that. The third reason why the United States needs to be concerned about cybersecurity is just the nature and the state of our networks in the United States. We're vulnerable on three different levels. The individual is extremely vulnerable because we're just not updating our antivirus software fast enough, and even if we do, the antivirus software can only recognize viruses that are already known, so that's not a perfect method either. The second level that we're vulnerable is in finance. Businesses are increasingly putting their proprietary information on networks which are vulnerable to hackers, and also all the transactions over the stock market are done on the web, so that is also another area of exposure. And the third level that we need to be worried about is infrastructure. Last year, almost 100 attacks on infrastructure were recorded. Infrastructure meaning energy grids, water supplies, things that are attached to some sort of network, be it the internet or be it a local network. All these things are exposed to hackers. So for those three reasons, the United States needs to be extremely worried about cyber warfare. Well, one of the people that I interviewed was Major General Charles Dunlap, who is a professor of law at Duke, and he was more optimistic than my other interviewees. He said basically, if it was easy to do, then it already would have been done, in the sense that if there could be a major fire sale or attack on the American network, then there's so many people that are enemies of the United States out there, then it already would have been done, so we don't have to be worried. But on the whole, I would agree with General Keith Alexander, who on a scale from 1 to 10 says that the state of cybersecurity in the United States is a 3. And I might even disagree and say that that's more optimistic than I would say. The one note of optimism that I might have is that as hackers get more and more proficient, which we call black hat hackers, white hat hackers, who are the people that their motive is to protect the internet rather than to sabotage, are also becoming more and more proficient. So while I don't have that much faith in legislators to update the law and do what needs to be done, I do have faith in the white hat hacker community who provide a nice counterbalance to the black hat hackers. So there's concern about both. The reason state hackers are of more concern because when we have non-state hackers, they do not have as much access to the technology and the advanced codes that are used for cyber attacks. And if they want to recruit master hackers, that puts them at great risk, because if they recruit a master hacker who happens to be a double agent for the United States, then that could disrupt their entire operation. But we also need to be worried about them because they don't have to worry about being anonymous. They can take credit for attacks, and groups that are non-state don't have to worry about us invading their state because they don't have a state, obviously. But we also need to be worried about state actors because, as we've seen, states are becoming less and less subtle about launching cyber attacks, especially Iran and China.